In the bottom right-hand side, we do have our blue Terran player from Dragon Phoenix Gaming. This is Cure. Taking on in the top left-hand side, the red Protoss player, Classic. As we get started here in today's coverage of ESL Open Cups, playing a bit of catch-up. We've not really been covering these for quite a while now, so this is our chance to catch up, get back on track, and all of that kind of stuff. And so here we are. So yeah, we're just, like I said, it's tough to run StarCraft when you're in the build-up to Katowice, because a lot of people do not want to play because they're preparing for Katowice. Shock horror. You know, can you guys believe that? So it is kind of a little bit strange, I suppose, at times, trying to, you know, figure out what we're going to be able to cast, if we can cast anything, for example, all that kind of stuff. And so having a little bank of replays is quite nice. I am going to run an event. I haven't really decided what it's going to be yet. But I'm going to run something that at least happens this Saturday and maybe throughout next week. But we don't really need anything else this week, because I'm just going to, like I say, cover replays for a little bit. So we'll run a little bit of a tournament next week. Maybe we'll just do an open thing on Saturday, like anyone can play. Put a good little bit of prize money up or something. Just because we've not ran anything yet this month, so maybe we'll do. I don't love doing the open tournaments, right? Because the open cups are very, yeah. You know, doing the, I don't want to say this. Doing the, like, open cups where people can just all sign up and stuff, it doesn't always get the best viewership and sometimes not even the best players, but, sometimes I think that can be kind of fun anyway, so. Yeah. Anyways, with all that said, we are going to kick off into our game here of TVP Classic vs. Cure. So we'll be running some stuff, basically, TLDR, before Katowice, but we'll also be just covering some replays and stuff and some games that I haven't had a chance to get an eye on as of yet. Been a while. Where have I been? I was at a Pokemon tournament this weekend. Taking some time off from not streaming very much, I guess. But yes, here we go with the Reaper coming in. So these were not quite the first time that these guys were playing these maps, but this was Cup 157, the first time this was officially, these maps being used for an ESL Open Cup. So I think that's obviously a factor to keep in mind as well. These players are going to be figuring out these maps and everything. Here we've got Dragon Scales, which I quite like as just one of the standard maps in this map pool. One of the things we're going to hear discussed a lot is the size of these maps. These maps are all very large. There's always a lot of bases available. Typically, you know, this gets me kind of excited because typically I feel like, yes, that favors Zerg, but in the past we always see like these other races sometimes just relying more so on the maps that have less bases as their, hey, this is how I'm going to play the maps kind of Zerg. I'm going to play with less base and that's easier for me. I wonder what the adaptation is going to be from Terrans to sort of say, hey, look, I'm just going to come through and, you know, do this on this map. You know, this is how I'm going to play this map to get over the fact that I don't just have my waterfalls, my inside and outs against Zerg nowadays, you know. Obviously, that isn't necessarily applicable to TVP. As we get this underway with a little bit of action breaking out, so a little bit on the go. Just gonna see our Reaper hopping in, trying to find a little bit of information. Couple gates on the way up, the Blink's about halfway done. This is going to be grabbing a probe. So, I mean, so far, 2 probes go down, 2 adepts go down. The early game, not exactly pretty at all for Classic. Losing out on quite a lot of stuff for not really much gain so far. So, could have been better, to say the least. And, you know, thank you so much. I am Mentos for the 37-month resub on the Prime. There's our robo facility. A couple of gates just all coming up. The Blink is just about halfway done. I'm just going to be seeing. That's going to be Classic starting point in this game. So it's going to be with 3 gateways. So it's not going to be like an overly crazy amount or anything. Just 3 gates. A good amount to apply some pressure with, of course. We'll see exactly how this works out. Next few minutes is right now we just clean up the Hellions so we get rid of some of the map control that Kira has been able to sit around with up until now. Comes a little Widow Mine drop as well. Try and get some damage done here. It's going to go straight in with this. Try and get something dealt as we go in. We just back away. We pull out of this. Nothing too crazy going on there for the early few moments. So good little hold, good little defense. What mines actually do get a Stalker, which is pretty nice, so that is something that you maybe, well, at least I wasn't expecting to happen. Kind of thought that this was going to be defended well and not really have any issues. But one probe, one Stalker, which turns out pretty okay then if you are the Terran player in this. The Stalker is always just nice to get rid of. It's, you know, an expensive unit, it's not easy to replace, so getting rid of a Stalker is almost always a good thing to be able to do. As Observer coming across the map, of course, this was all played on the new balance patch and stuff as well, guys. They were playing on the PTR mods. Obviously, with this having been from a couple of weeks ago and so on, there is the fact that obviously some of these changes will be slightly different to what we, you know, see in the current patch that just released yesterday. So that is one thing to keep in mind. For example, how long is this auto turret? This auto turret's 8 seconds. Actually, maybe it's not so different. Obviously, there's a lot of changes to the balance patch and like tweaks here and there. So if something doesn't quite match up to what you believe it is currently, that's just because it has been changed around a little bit since these games were played. Because like I say, we're just casting from it. It's only 2 weeks ago, but like I say, they put a lot of alterations and edits into those balance patch changes before it went live on the servers, like I say, just yesterday. So there is an auto turret again, keeping the probes from mining. The more you can keep these probes from mining, the better position you're going to be in as Cure, because then Classic's just going to struggle to be able to afford anything, as Classic is asking about something that I cannot translate, so there you go. I guess we'll see. So these two will go back and forth a little bit about whatever that is they're chatting about. I'm just going to be seeing the army of Q. I mean, really stacking up and ready to go. Third CC on the way up as well, so continue to look pretty good in that regard. Let's just get all of this ready for Rumble. Classic just sits here with this Raven. I think he was asking how much energy was maybe on the, you know, how much energy is it for an auto turret now, and it was like 75. Because that's obviously one of the differences they made. This is Classic. Not convinced that that's a good change, maybe. The auto turrets now, I'm actually going to have to double check what the auto turrets actually do now, because that's one of the things that got changed a lot. The Ravens were just changed repeatedly ahead of the patch actually going live. So the actual current numbers is something which I'm, like I say, not 100% confident to say without double checking, but like I said, that just goes to show how much they were tweaking this patch and really trying to figure out what exactly would be best and how it would be best, etc. As the fight actually breaks out here, Woodermines do very well to start off with. And the tanks just being in position here helping a lot as well. But still, it's pretty good in these scenarios. Able to soak up a lot of the damage, etc. As he continues through, the super battery's about to fade away, so maybe that opens the door for Q to just keep on going. About 40 army supply ahead. Just had a good start this game, right? A couple of probes, a couple of the adepts got cleaned out. And honestly, from there, it just seems like Q's been pretty clean with his macro, and he might just overrun on this first game on Dragon Skills. This is one of the shorter maps as well, if I'm not mistaken, so it's pretty easy to move across to the other side. It's pretty quick to reinforce as well. It's made a little funky by some of the rocks and the positions that kind of choked up and stuff, but in general, this is not going to be a difficult one to reinforce your attacks on. You can see this now. Immortals dropping, Zelds going down, Stalkers keep on dying. This is not going to be enough Protoss to hold off the Terran. And Kira is going to be grabbing a game number 1 of his best of 3. Stalkers continue to drop, and Kira is going to win the first game of this best of 3 series, just like that. So they were discussing it was meant to be 75 mana for the auto turret, but it was only 50. But they did change that from 75 back to 50 at some point, and then just reduced the length of time of the auto turret and its armor, I believe. Like I say, they did a couple of different things. There's just changes all over the place in this patch, so even the players struggling to keep the fun one. A way longer loading time than I thought it was going to be, so excuse me a moment or two. But we are going to start off down in the bottom right corner of the map with the blue Terran player. This is Cure. And of course, in the top left-hand side, we are going to have ourselves the red Protoss player. This is Classic. Alright, so classic in Kyo. Babylon has a map. All I remember of Babylon is it's so pretty, you know? It's a really pretty map, really cool to see it in the map pool. I'm very excited to see in the map pool because honestly I really thought as though this was a map that initially had some performance issues, and that sometimes does obviously have an effect of whether it gets to make it in, especially to ladder where they do have to think about the performance on weaker PCs and stuff. That's something that Blizzard does take into account. But the map was changed, and it did have a lot of its kind of aesthetics removed to make sure that it was a little bit more playable and a little bit more accessible, which obviously is a good thing, because if a map is good, then yes, even if it's not as pretty as it was before, it's nice that it's just a good map, right? So there's one good thing. Yeah, just continue to look around here. Some ledges and sides to jump on up and hop around on. It's going to be one of the big things we watch for kind of throughout this as we have our first Reaper coming out here from Kyo. Both players do expand pretty standard pretty quickly, right, without too many question marks. Just putting expansions down, getting ready to play something of a macro game at the very least here in these early stages. So Adept, Marine, all on the way out. Just bringing all of that through as we have the Reaper going on a little bit of an adventure. It's going to be seeing Stargate coming up as well. Bunker is on its way. Factory is on its way. All of this being brought in just for the moment, so yeah, nothing too surprising. Just going to be seeing our Reaper get a few shots off on the pylon, and the Adept will begin to shade out to try and deal with said Reaper, try and push that back and to keep that away. Now obviously Reaper's going to hop up over here, so kind of a cool map for being able to hop around on, but the other Adept comes in, gets into position, and actually now this Reaper gets intercepted on the way out as well, so Reaper goes down. Good denial of scouting here by Classic, able to stop Kyo pretty much instantly, as Kyo now just opts to go into a Hellion straight away off his factory, try and use that for some scouting perhaps, and he'll continue on into his starport. With the Stargate up, we will get to see Classic making his own choice as to what to do, and he opts to go into, pretty much immediately, the Phoenix. So he's going to go into Phoenix pretty much straight away here, is going to be his plan. Meanwhile, I've got these couple of Adepts continue to move around, and they are actually going to shade in past through the bunker here, try and get some little additional bits of damage done, but unfortunately it's not going to quite work out for them just yet. Actually, they shade in again, so these Adepts are pretty serious about trying to get damage done. They are going to really try hard and commit in here. And just going to give it a few goes over. As we will have the Widowmine helping to clean up finally, though, so that's going to be the end of these little Adepts. That'll be the end of that for now. Just going to be seeing the Hellion on the other side. Did get through to Scout, to be fair, so you do get into at least get a little bit of scouting information. Phoenix obviously cleans it up, and you get to know it's Phoenix, right, which is good and, you know, a lot of the time necessary information to have, to be fair, so don't feel like we can be complaining too much about that straight away. As we do have our medevac waiting to get going again. So medevac hasn't really done much just yet. We've lost a few Marines so far this game. A few Adepts went down. Classic opting to be pretty aggressive so far in these games. 2 extra barracks on the way out. Tech Lab still coming through. And that Robo Bay just halfway along. Another gateway building. And the Phoenix still producing as well. I mean, if you've already been building Phoenix, you're obviously going to want to keep building Phoenix in this scenario. There's really no surprise about that. That's pretty much always the way this is going to play. There's a lot of kind of expected stuff. Now, obviously, the one Immortal is very nice just in case you do get hit by an early attack. It actually keeps you very safe having that one single Immortal. It might not seem like one Immortal would make that much of a difference, but it actually can be pretty impactful just having that one more solid unit there from the very beginning. Can really help you out, so. Will Phoenix go turning away? So we've seen the Phoenix will obviously would, you know, if they can, they would love to be able to get in and continue to get rid of some SCVs throughout this, but that's not always going to be a guarantee. It's just something they would like to be able to do, so we'll kind of keep our minds and our eyes on that. As yeah, so far we're deflecting this well. We take a third base, of course, as classic, and he continues into the Colossi, which is again just, you know, in a big way the expectation of what we do here. We lose the Observer, unfortunately, to a missile turret, which is just sad because obviously that information is information that can just keep you safe and keep you in a good place. Now we're going to have to make sure we pay attention to these Widow Mines, as they're going to go boom, boom, bang. 2 and 5. Well, 2 and 3, so make 5 in total. Not that bad. Could have been a lot worse, honestly, I feel like. So, yeah, I feel like that could have been worse. But obviously the Medevac gets to lift up and for now get away. The Phoenix should be able to clean this up, of course, and so they will begin to do that. Things to get rid of one of those Medevacs then in the ends, just able to pick that off. Big bio push coming across the map now with this Raven as well. Hasn't lost this to the Phoenix throughout so far, so that's, I think, a pretty important note. In fact, is just going to be seeing a dive onto the Colossus. We're going to get the Colossus at least. Now, the other Colossus got Matrix, so that's not going to be able to be part of this fight. Not for a little while. And Bioforce low on HP. We've lost the Medevacs. So they can't really be healed up here. Just about able to stick around that little bit for the moment. We do survive here as classic at least, so that is kind of the good news, I suppose. We'll see if it's going to turn out to be enough. As we have 1-1 upgrades on the way as well, so classic actually can have a pretty good army in that regard. It's actually going to be very nice to have for himself, so not really worried there. Widow Mines come back in straight away here, and the Phoenix actually just going to sit and eat 2 of those shots, which obviously cleans it up, but it comes at a price, so not exactly ideal to say the very least. Eight more probes going down. Classic continue to just get bullied, quite frankly, so really not having a great go of this right now. And another push coming around from Q. However, Classic is also across the map here, and being across the map I think goes a long way for you, because in a little bit of a base trade scenario this could get weird. If you can deal damage then recall home to defend, you can end up in a very good place actually. So I do feel like that is something to potentially watch out for here, something to be worried about, as Classic's just sat here. The move has to be made kind of soon by Q, and he's going to force just a recall straight away. So can he get rid of this third base? Going to get very low. He does get the kill. Matrix is a Colossus as well, just to ensure that that is going to be picked off. So able to make the most of this here, and yeah, gets himself a base kill, which is obviously a big win. You have to imagine that that is going to be very good for Q, who does on the tail end of this maybe lose out on quite a few units, but I don't know. I feel like he's still kind of okay. I mean, you got rid of a third base. As long as you can defend the immediate counterattack, it's not like Q's supply is super low coming out of this, right? It's pretty respectable, I would say, for the most part. We've seen the Bioforce continue to try and fight here, and just going to be having the Widow Mine going off, hitting an Immortal for a handful of damage. Libera is setting up as well. Q really making it seem unlikely that Classic will find a way to break through this position. Trying to push in. I mean, Libera is just something you don't really have the numbers to deal with right now, so that definitely seems like something of the problem as well. I'm just going to go turn our attention to a set of rocks over here, picking straight through this. The Libera that will get sieged. just going to have ourselves a couple of Colossi still going wild. And these Colossi, I mean, to be fair, there's no answer to the Liberators. There's also... The only real answer to Colossi, in fairness, is kind of the Liberators as well. So that means that if you stay out of Liberator range, then you should be able to do pretty well still with the, you know, Colossus. And that's what's allowed you so far to deny this 4th base, for example. So there's definitely some value still being found where maybe we didn't initially expect to have much of it available to us. Next is on the way up, just bringing this straight in. I'm just going to see these Colossi waiting to go once again, make their next move here. I mean, just keeping this base in mind, obviously now we're just going to go the other side though, so you have to run to a little bit of, you know, can we not just rotate around there as Classic, trying to deny that position, as we do see him pushing forward here once more, doing well for himself, getting pretty far forward, and yeah, I'd say putting himself into a pretty reasonable spot. I mean, just keeping kind of Cure from being able to mine comfortably in this game. I would not have expected that would have been the case with essentially how this game started off, no, right? It was absolutely all about it was all about Cure early on. He was the one doing the damage. The Phoenix were not really sustaining well enough. He was the one, and obviously he lost the 3rd base as well, Classic, so they're kind of wild. Here we go, stemming forwards here as Cure. He still doesn't have a way to get to those Colossi, though. He will get rid of the Prism. Stops the reinforcements. That could be the difference he needs in this game right now as we come forward with the Colossi still holding on. 28 SCVs down. Secure lost pretty much all of his economy in this attempted bust out. That means, guys, I think that this is going to be pretty much done. We're going to recall the Colossi and keep them alive. And with the Colossi staying alive, that's just going to be a GG's. We are going to see a Game 3. Classic is going to be able to hold on against this. And, wow, I mean, we're pretty close towards the end for sure. Very fun stuff. Classic with a tying up game. And like I say, in a match from an ESL Open Cup, we do have ourselves a blue Terran player in the bottom right-hand side. This is Cure. Top left will be our red Protoss player. This is going to be Classic. This map's kind of a funky one, and this SCV straight up this left-hand side, so looking to cause some chaos and some discussion early on as to what the hell we're meant to do here. So yeah, just being a little bit funky on the opening, and going to see what exactly we're going to do from there. Just going to drop the barracks down. Imagine this is just going to be a bit of a Reaper opening, right? There's nothing really too surprising about that. That's kind of an expectation, I guess, in a lot of ways at this point in the game. Early proxy racks, get a Reaper. I mean, we see this kind of stuff all the time, so it shouldn't really come as that much of a surprise or anything, like I say. See what Classic does here. It really felt like he was, again, being kind of bullied that last game, but just ended up in a position where he was at least able to say, well, hey, look, I've actually got units you can't get rid of. I kind of thought, like I said as well at the time, the Liberators were going to be that from, you know, Q's point of view, but they obviously just were not. So without those Libs able to kind of be that kind of determining factor, didn't really get to see much love out of them as you just have a Nexus down, and everything very standard so far. It is no expansion at home, obviously, from Q. I think that's to be kind of expected as well, to be fair. This is a situation, of course, where you have, you know, a factory coming up early as well, so it's not super expected necessarily to just have the immediate move into a, you know, expansion. So factory first makes sense. We have the first Reaper coming in, doing very well. I tell you what, guys, I don't know what it is about this map. I think it's just the lighting or so, but the lighting on this map really makes me feel as though the map is, like, stuff looks so high definition on this map. Is that just me? Maybe, possibly? I don't know. Like, I feel like I've had maps like this before. I'm like, man, things just look so good on this map. And it's just like, something about the lighting effects or so just makes it look like really, really good. And like I said, to me, it's almost like high definition. So I've been, I don't know. Everything looks kind of cool on this map. I think it's just the lighting. Anyways, outside of the lighting, just have ourselves Stargate, Adapt, Warp Gate, all on the way up here. It's just bringing all of that through. And there's Reaper trying to get in for some information here now. The other Stalker will come in and continue to chase. Two Reapers together. They'll get rid of one probe. Looking for number 2. Good grenade to buy some extra time. We do, in fact, find ourselves a couple of probes there, so that works out rather wonderfully. There is some very good news. Well, again, a couple of probes going down so far. I'm just going to be seeing our game continuing now. Viking back at home, we finally have that CC on the way. Additional barracks as well, so we're realizing that this is going to be against Phoenix. So we're starting to prep against the Phoenix and the air units just in general. And as that preparation comes to fruition, we'll obviously see if these Phoenix can actually get any work done, or if there's going to be enough to just stop that from ever happening. So, a few questions we had. Wouldn't gets a shot on a Phoenix, which is nice because it's just softened up for later in the game. It might not be a kill, but it's something that can definitely lead to a kill a bit further down the line. Or you just get the Viking there right then and there to finish off said Phoenix. And there you go. That's why that's always going to be a good thing, right? Can't complain about that. Raven is coming out, by the way, as well. It's just going to be seeing this once again. With the Raven changes, I really feel like we're going to see Raven almost 99% of TVPs now. Easier to get out, just fits into builds more easily. Even if some of its abilities are weaker, it is just still going to provide some good utility for some snap fights and stuff like that. So, don't imagine the Raven's going to be... I don't imagine the Raven's going to be replaced by much. Slowly going to work our way towards the third base through the top side. We just have to go for the minerals, open that up, and then you've got that pathway down to that base. That just takes a few moments. Doesn't look like it's going to do too much to slow things down, though. Nexus goes down, a couple of gates continuing up. Impact combat shield on the way at the moment. A battery just going to sit here protecting that third already, and obviously looking to work from that. One of mine goes off, grabs a little shot on a Phoenix, and the Viking's not quite there to be able to do enough about it. It's going to drop a little mule down, of course. Cure keeps things mining here. This map was very interesting. The 2 times I did cast already. I feel like it's got a lot of potential because you're kind of forced to kind of play forward expansions, and then that can maybe encourage fights in, but it can also get into a very stalematey situation very easily where it's hard to really do much. If you're both kind of forced to fight into each other, that's not something that's necessarily guaranteed to go well for you per se, so I'm intrigued as to what you can end up with here. And like I say, this is one of the maps that I'm really looking forward to learning a little bit more about, so hopefully we can do that across these replays that we cast the next few days. Bioforce comes up the left side. He's going to go pretty much straight on across and through. It's going to be having a bit of a push in with a few Widow Mines, the Raven, etc. All of that just getting settled here. You get the double Matrix. I mean, again, that Raven showing its utility. Double Matrix goes off, and instantly you're going to find yourself with, well, a scary push because you don't have really a way to use the Claw Side. Viking in the main base as well will get some good damage done pretty much immediately too, so that's also a nice little bonus. In the end, Terran player has to back away, but gets a little bit of damage dealt initially, gets some progress made in these early stages. We do have Classic sitting pretty comfortably on that third base at the moment as well, so he's going to be pretty content just hanging out with that, I think. I mean, surviving this in general is going to be step one. Of course, the big thing, I guess, to remember is the fact that this was never really a commitment to kill from Cure. The Matrix obviously shut the Colossi off, but they're only going to last a certain amount of time, so unless you really believe you can do something about that in the next few moments after that, I guess this is never really, like I say, all too concerning at the end of the day. Now, upgrades are being, taken 2 at a time here from Classic, so he is working that double forge, getting into a very powerful position with his army. If that can continue into 2-2, there's definitely some timing potential there as well to potentially take good fights for you against Q's force, which would be a little bit further behind. Does the point of view look funny to anyone else? I was kind of thinking this myself a little bit. I think it's just the layout of the map almost, no? It's definitely correct. I kind of thought this myself, and I thought it was just being crazy. I'm glad it's not just me. I think it's just the way that some of the bases are laid out. That kind of odd angles, and maybe the ramps are odd angles as well. As you see 3 probes going down, I'm just going to be seeing this fight again, accompanied by the Matrix off the Raven is a big deal, and is a big part of why this is currently going down. We've got a bit of bio that wants to work its way in from the left-hand side there, so we'll see if that can perhaps do much of anything. Big push to the top with the bio army, and it's going to be leading its way up that right side, trying to get in position to potentially make something happen. Temple Archive still coming up then. Immortal Phoenix Charge +2/+2 all on the way right now. Maybe you see now a few extra ghosts, etc. coming up as well. Again, all of the tech on the way. We are once again seeing the typical kind of Terra multi-prong. That's one thing, I guess. There's a couple of very clear pathways to kind of multi-prong on this map, right? Go up the left one side, go up the right another. It's very choky, but if you can get past that, you can definitely make stuff happen. And that's already a good snipe on the Colossus. Didn't even need a Matrix this time around to disable that. Just straight up get it killed. Make your life a whole bunch easier. Pylon is going to get shot down as well. It's just going to take this out. Pull off the bio down the left. Trying to see maybe what it can do. Again, this is the power right now. You want a 4th Basis Classic, but you're just not going to be able to get one because the pressure is just going to be kept way too heavily on you at the moment. So it's going to make your life that much more difficult as we dock down our Robo facility. So getting rid of that straight away. This is just not going to get any easier. As we just kite back as well, and that's the power of this Terran army. It doesn't need to commit in any single position, right? It can just take its time, slowly work its way through these positions, and just really, I think, be very happy with how things get set up here. So yeah, looking and feeling pretty good right now for Kua. And again, as long as you don't get a 4th base on the way up as Classic, I think trouble really is just a major part of this game for you, unfortunately. I mean, how do you break out? Maybe, I guess, some Prism play on the other side is always going to be an option, right? If you can get a Prism on the other side of the map, then yes, it's probably going to be good for you, but that's hard to ask for when you've been losing your tech structures and you've been losing your tech to the point where A, you don't have a Robo right now, and B, you just don't have access. Even when that Robo comes up, you're probably going to want to build other different things to just keep you alive in the first place. No point being alive. No point having, a Prism doing stuff on the other side if you don't have any units to defend anyway, right? So you're getting caught in all sorts of weird situations here. Honestly, it's definitely a tough situation to play out of, and we are kind of just seeing that in big ways here, as we have got ourselves a bio army. It's being pushed back. This Protoss force somewhat stands up for itself for a handful of moments, but I feel like that's pretty much all it's going to be able to do for itself here, unfortunately. Big fight, and this little bit of bio probably is going to get taken out, but again, you look at the supplies, the worker leader's there for Cure, the army leader's there for Cure. He has everything necessary to continue following through. I just do not see where we truly turn this one around. Again, that might be negative, but I feel like that's just the way of it right now. I feel like that's just the state of this game. 9 probes. Died in the previous attacks. Just going to be seeing a few more High Templar coming out here as well. More scans coming down. Classic still making his way across. Classic might just feel like he's got one all in attack, right? I mean, he's on 3 bases. He can't possibly be thinking that this is going to be okay for him in a macro game or anything. There is potentially a world, though, where, you know, if he can just get across the map and take one big fight, he could possibly do something good for himself. You know, the opportunity is definitely there to some regard, right? So let's see just how much that might be the case, as we have the probes over on this side going to get rid of that Marauder. And yeah, Classic just got to go and hope that these Colossi and Archons will be enough. It's only 2 Colossi, there's 4 Vikings, there's a lot of Ghosts. I don't really see this ever being enough, but we are going to be able to give it a bit of a go. He dropped 1 EMP. That was already a good EMP. Hits the Immortals, hits the Colossus. Keeps a lot of units away from where they would want to be. As we EMP again, these Archons start dropping very quickly. Just continues to fight, continues to trade. Just going to be seeing this force continue to come through. It is way too much, way too powerful. I think this one is going to be enough. GG's. Q are going to take it 2-1, gets this victory, and is going to move on through